Hi, this is Dara. Welcome to my video on daily routines. A lot of times I do videos that are really more complex, and so I thought for this one I would do something kind of nice and simple. And actually, to quote Tina Turner, it's nice and easy. And then we're going to go ahead and do the next part, nice and rough. So let's go ahead and jump into the nice and easy. So this is for people who've been thinking about, like, how do I keep my routines on Notion? How do I make it so that these pages, can kind of, we don't have the automation yet to make them create themselves each day, but we do have the ability to do it quickly in a way that's still manual but very quick. So here I've just got like 2 pages just to show off. I've got my daily routine. So it's got things that I want to do in the morning. I like to track my project hours because I will have to put that in my timesheet. How much water I'm drinking, steps, hours of sleep, the usual, whatever you want. Since I do the same for the daily for every day of the week, I just go ahead and put like my evening schedule here. And then, the end of evening routine. And then I just, same kind of idea for the weekend, except that since I'm not at work, I put in afternoon, I put stuff like, my study sessions and farmer's market, but, you can kind of get, I don't need the days of the week here, so we can just get rid of all of this. All right. So now it's easy enough if I want to have more to kind of just right click and duplicate, and then I get another copy. But you see, like, first of all, it's falling in line with, these pages that are really my template pages. And then it's adding this word copy, and then I still have to open it up to kind of change the name and make it the today's thing. So instead of doing it that way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create template buttons for these. So all I have to do now is call this like new daily. And then I'm going to take that page I created and I'm going to drag it into the template. And I can get rid of this to do because I don't need that. And close. Now if I wanted to edit that, like let's say there's more things that I'm like, what I really should be doing each day is XYZ. If I hover over it, you'll see that this gear shift icon is exposed, and if I click on that allows me to configure the template, and then I can get back into editing that page. All right, now let's just do another one for the weekend. Drag that in. Okay, so pretty simple. That's how they look on the page. You can tell that these are meant to be a template. They don't get mixed in with my pages. They have a different look. And to create a page, I can just click on it and it gives me the page, and then I can go ahead and open it and say at today, make it contextual. So then, this page tomorrow is going to say at tomorrow, at yesterday, and then it'll be like at, last Wednesday, and then finally it'll turn into a date value, a number date value, right? And then if I just want to make this a little, more, oops, I put that in there. If I want to lay it out a little more nicely, I could just go ahead and create some columns here so that my templates are here. And then when I create a new one, I can pull the new one over to the column and just have a running column of all these. Now, eventually you're going to want to archive them some way. You could create like a page that's like the week. So let's say, was Monday 9/10. And then I could just, at the end of the week, drop these in here, and then eventually maybe it's the month of, and etc. So that's one way that it can be done. It's still quite manual. It's still not quite like the way that I would want to do it, but that is an option, especially for people who prefer wiki pages over tables. But let's go ahead and dive in and do it nice and rough. So I'm going to do it with tables. So if you've seen my video on how I keep my agenda, you'll know that I have many tables that I use to run my daily workflow. But the two main tables are the task table and the notebook table. So the task table will just help me keep track of what I'm working on. And the notes are kind of like random. Sometimes I am taking notes within the task, but I've actually found that that's not... that doesn't work for me, because eventually this task is going to close, and once it's closed, once it's completed, I actually have it hidden. It's not going to show on my board anymore. So, you know, I'm going to lose track of the notes. So I like to keep my notes in a separate database. And then what I also have is a project table. So if I'm looking at the project, on the project, it will say, you know, here are all the tasks that I did on the project. Here's all the notes that I've taken for that project, and that's easier to get through. And then, of course, since my notebook, it has just everything, it's easier for me to just, you know, come in here and find a particular note if I don't go through the project way first. But the other thing that I do is I do keep a table of my daily journal. Right? So I don't think of the journal as the same as the notebook. The notebook is like where I'm writing stuff. Like the intake for project X. What are we doing on that project? Or, you know, what are the specs around this design? Or just, you know, writing, like I'm writing a poem or I'm writing a piece of fiction or what have you. Like that's just kind of, you know, I think of my physical notebook, where like my journal is kind of like my day planner. It's different than notebook. It just says like, here's everything I did on that day. So I would just come in and I create this table. And I'm really putting these D's in front of it just to separate it from my actual journals and task and notebook, so that I can, you know, not grab those by accident. So there's only two values no, that's not true. So the values that I keep in the journal, I have the name, which is actually going to be the day of the week. I'll just leave it as name. I actually didn't change that. Then I have the date. And then I have two relationships. So I have my task. And I have my notebook. All right, so I'm just going to go into my task table real quick, because when you make that relationship, it just names it as related to, and it gives you this kind of blah, but I just wanted to say like journal here. Okay. And then same thing for the notebook. I just want that to read journal. All right. So now when I go through each day, I can say, what were my routines? What were the tasks I accomplished? And what were the notes? So let's add the routines, and I'm going to add them again. Instead of doing it like, you know, at each time, like if you open this, you'll see it's empty, and I'd have to like create all those notes again. I want to do it as a template. So I'm going to go ahead and go on this down arrow and click New Template. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and call this Daily. And then I'm going to lay out the page the same way I did it, you know, in the other version. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, add all that information, and we'll come back. Okay, so I just did a shortcut. I just to show like it's going to be here. You saw what the routine looked like before. I can come in, and again, this time I can duplicate it, and I'm going to call this weekend, and then instead of projects, we had afternoon. Okay, so that gives me two templates. So now when I go to use this, I can either create a new template by clicking on this down arrow and clicking here on the item, or I can do it by simply going into the note I already have, and you see it's available here inside. So I'm going to make this at today, right? So it has that contextual today, which will again change as the date changes. I'm going to put today's date. So even though this does change, I actually run different things using this date, and that's why I have the date and the relative date. And then I'm going to say, here's a task that I worked on. Okay, so I worked on this design concept and this article. And then I also did the intake process for Project X. And then this happened in my weekday. Oops, I clicked weekend. Oh yeah, that's it. So this happened on my weekday. So there's my template. Here's my task. Here's my intake. And then the last thing that I do is that I make sure for my journal, let's just pick the funk and say this was at yesterday. And I can even pre-stage one by doing at tomorrow. Okay, and then each of these I'm going to just go ahead and add daily. Okay, but then what I want to do here is I want to go ahead and filter this so that the date it's showing me, and this is why I do the date, because the name, I don't think I can filter the same way on the name. Yeah, because it has to do name contains, but I want to be able to say date is today. And then when I'm looking at throughout the day, I'm only looking at today's journal. And of course I can go in later and look at other things that I've done and glance back at my journals. But you see, it's a little bit more powerful because not only do I have that daily habit tracker, but I know what I worked on and I have a link to any notes I took on the notebook. So that's how I keep track of my daily routines. I hope this was helpful for you, and again, it was a nice short video to to get something in there and demonstrate how this works. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.